what to know about tonight's Hunter's Moon, the largest supermoon this year. Sweet. That was last night. It was, so it's still kind of going on right now a little bit. But, hey, it is the way it is, right? It's okay. But I wanted to point out that we are in Halloween season with the Hunter's Moon, the largest supermoon this year. 2 weeks to an election and 2 weeks to Halloween as well, kind of in the same space. And, how you guys feeling? Is everybody okay out there? Is everybody okay out there? Okay. And so that's where we'll start. We'll start with this idea of this, this synchronistic supermoon happening. A couple of weeks to Halloween. We troubled minds have snapped back into paranormal mode for a couple of weeks here. And, I don't know. Do you guys believe in this stuff? Halloween folklore. And how deep does it go? And of course, we'll start with the witching hour. And in this case, again, if you go to just the most generic of things, the Wikipedia, ye old Wikipedia, which of course has been compromised by political activists for quite some time now and is an unreliable source. So I'll leave it at that. But in folklore, the witching hour or devil's hour, interesting, is a time of night that is associated with supernatural events. Now we're cooking with gas, whereby witches, demons, and ghosts are thought to appear and be at their most powerful. Okay, all right, now we're talking a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons type of thing, right? Definitions vary and include the hour immediately after midnight and the time between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. All right. The term is now has a widespread colloquial and idiomatic usage that is associated with the human physiology and behavior to more superstitious phenomena such as luck. All right. And so the first question tonight for all of you guys out there, all you fine people listening and hanging out and spending your time and energy with us, again, thank you for that, is do you believe this stuff? Have you ever had a situation happen to you where you were in this witching hour and something happened? Have you ever had an experience? So we'll go, of course, hopefully there's some, you guys have had some experiences we can talk about or touch on with this, so we can make this a little bit of an experiencer show, or if not, that's okay too, because we can just talk about it conceptually as we always do. But I do wonder, right? It is. So the phrase witching hour began at least as early as 1775. It says in the poem Night and Ode by Reverend Matthew West. That's such what a name. Matthew West. What's up? So there are multiple times again, and this is the part that kind of caught me. I was like, okay, so how do we define this if it's all over the place? Because it's kind of all over the place. There are multiple times that can be considered the witching hour. Some claim the time is between 12 and 1, while others claim there's increased supernatural activity between sunset and sunrise. Okay, that makes a little more sense to me. Maybe that's why. Different time zones. Who knows? Maybe the ghosts are on Eastern Standard Time. You know what I mean? But anyway, so the New Zealand Oxford Dictionary identifies midnight as the time when witches are supposedly active. Okay, maybe. We have some witches out there. You can maybe chime in and let me know. But during the time in which the term originated, many people had sleeping schedules that meant they were awake during the middle of the night. Nonetheless, there is a psychological literature suggesting that apparitional experiences and sensed presences are most common between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., corresponding with the 3 a.m. peak in the amount of melatonin in the body, which of course is that if you want to go to sleep, we're told you're supposed to take some melatonin. It's part of the sleep cycle and the human neurochemical situation of REM sleep. So anyway, question to start: do you guys believe at all in this witching hour stuff? How do you define it? Is it again straight from Wikipedia, which again is an unreliable source? I'll say it straight up. Is it that it's actually apparitional experiences and sense presences are most common between these hours? And okay, and whether you believe it or not, as a conceptual framework, why do you think this might be? Is it a neurochemical response of REM sleep, melatonin, the rest of this? Or is it something else entirely? And as you know me, I've brought some other wild ideas that might fit or might not. I'm calling this tonight a silent signal. The witching hour's call to awareness, because that's what came to my mind when I was like, okay, so if you're thinking about this sort of outside the conceptual framework of folklore and, modern folklore, even modern mythology, this type of stuff, stepping outside the dogma a little bit, which there is some, of course, built into this as part of the good and evil phenomenon and ghosts and stuff, as you would expect. And like I'm saying, it's not a bad thing. It's just worth noting here. And it's one of the most obvious things, by the way, but definitely worth noting. But I want to point out that there's a couple things happening with this. And so I was thinking about it as this silent signal, is some space where we're not really aware of it. There's something happening in the, the noosphere, the zeitgeist, or in the, I don't know, in your space, like whatever it is, whether it's your mind space or whether it's your actual geographical space or whatever's happening with you in that particular moment between, again, let's say kind of defined by 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. in that witching hour. Okay. To me, I've said this in the past too, that is one of my most productive times. If I'm not working a day job, traditionally I am just a night owl, and I'm going to bed probably 4:35 in the morning. Okay. That's my natural, just given my druthers, and you don't have to touch an alarm clock ever, I'm going to be thriving between 2 and 4. And I wonder if, as part of that, there's this energy. There's something cooking, right? Like it feels to me like we've talked about this in the past, as the Night Owls Unite, that whole bit when we did that show. But maybe there is some sort of latent energy as part of this. I don't really know. But the silent signal part is the thing that kind of caught me, because I was like, all right, now. Which again, I'm making up, me making things up. But so the idea here is that with the silent signal is that, let's say ancient shaman may have used the witching hour to detect shifts in reality, or even spiritual predators in this sense. And maybe this has been baked in through ritual magic, or, maybe sleep states or dream magic, or however you want to frame this, as some, let's say, human space that we should be really worried about, some actual specific time frame that maybe we're more susceptible to something like, dare we say, demonic possession, or, something to that effect. So I don't really know what that answer is. As you know, me answers a few questions, many, but in that particular sense, it makes some reasonable, well, let's say, to extrapolate on the idea, it seems reasonable to me to consider that maybe there is some signal happening there, and it's something that we should be aware of, and maybe we are all aware of. It's just not something that's really taught, or we're not taught to focus on, or anyway. So what do you guys think about this idea, the witching hour? And I'm calling it a witching hour's call to awareness for that exact reason. Because I wonder if that fight or flight, or whatever that mechanism is that kind of brings out the fear response in people, is built into that time of night for some reason. Like it's synced up to our circadian rhythms. It's synced up to, well, just the idea of us as humans defending ourselves. I mean, there's always, of course, the, scared of the dark, that whole, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. We're all grown ass people now. If you're not, you should probably be in bed. Get in bed, young people out there, and don't listen to Troubled Minds on Halloween season. It'll scare you. But, grown people, still, you turn the lights off and we're suddenly defenseless. And so it definitely brings in that fear response that I'm talking about here. So clearly that's an obvious part of this, the darkness outside, the sort of uncertainty of what might be lurking around out there, the chupacabras and the cryptids and the Bigfoots and, the ghosts and the specters and the goblins and all the things we're always talking about. And it's basically just a repackaging the fear of the unknown, okay, which is good. I love that stuff, as you know. However, I do wonder if there's something more to it in the case of an actual signal, where we're supposed to be aware of it for maybe some reason exactly like that. Back to what I was talking about here. So how about modern society, disconnected from these instincts, may unknowingly be missing some of these subtle warnings encoded in dreams and sudden awakenings at 3 a.m.? Are these experienced echoes of a lost survival mechanism, which is what I'm describing? And so if you go back to ancient ritual magic, the shaman of old, and this type of stuff, I wonder if there is a bridge, a liminal space in the dream realm to the true realm, or vice versa, however you want to look at it, and being able to look at these things and consider that maybe there is a danger zone, like a temporal danger zone for that REM sleep. I don't know. Like I said, going out there a bit on a limb just to start here, but it does make me wonder if there's a signal kind of flowing through it in the back of your mind, and as you're, well, kind of moving into that 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. thing. But again, so the witching hour, back to this thing, I want to read a little bit from this so we get the actual take. What's the take? There's a really fantastic article down here. All the links I'm using, by the way, are always going to be in the description down below. So if you want to read up on this stuff, please do. Please read in full, and you can kind of go down the rabbit hole that I went through. I don't read all of it. I read as much as I can, as fast as I can. But this is a fantastic one. It's from Ranker.com. It's called Why is 3 a.m. the Witching Hour? So I'm going to read you just a little bit from this one because I thought it was the most comprehensive and interesting, very troubled mind style interesting. And many of you probably know a lot of this stuff, but listen to this. So many people are familiar with intense eeriness that comes from the 3 a.m. hour, from waking up with a sudden jolt from a deep sleep to sensing that something may be lurking in the darkness around you. It goes by many different names, as we said, the witching hour, the devil's hour, and to some, the chime hour. Interesting. But what gives this particular hour such a spooky reputation? With roots stretching back to Jesus' crucifixion, myths and legends about the witching hour have been around for generations. But what is it? Why is it called this? And some believe that it is a perfect time to practice magic, when spirits can be reached without interruption. Still, others see the 3 a.m. Devil's Hour as the time when evil spirits are free to roam and wreak havoc on the world. There's even debate about when the witching hour truly begins. As I was saying earlier, is it truly 3 a.m.? Or is it midnight? Is it between 12 and 1 is what I was... if you ask 20-year-old Michael Strange, he would say, oh yeah, the witching hour, midnight, between 12 and 1, something like that. But then now, of course, there's layers to it. And we're talking 3, between 2 and 4. When is the witching hour? I don't know. Anyway, so different sources propose different time periods for the witching hour, as we said there. There are many myths associated with the witching hour, blah, 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 blah. The most readily agreed upon time frame is 3 a.m., as it holds numerous links to Christian theology as well as modern folklore regarding occult activity. However, some also argue that it isn't 3 a.m. at all. 12, like I said. Okay, here's the good part. So according to practices of the early Christian church, certain types of prayers were recited at different times during the day. As a result, the liturgical prayers, is that how you say that, which are prayers that must be recited publicly to the people, were recited at 7 specific daytime hours, beginning with the Matins prayer at sunrise. Okay, so it was a time of sort of silence where there was no prayer, this 3 a.m. space. During the nighttime hours when people were asleep, the church would hold prayer vigils instead of liturgical prayers. It is because of this pause in liturgical prayer that many suspected the presence of both demons and supernatural activity was heightened at night, unobstructed by the Word of God. Now, I love that. We talked about that idea in the past, the power of prayer or meditation and these things. And shout out Matthew in Colorado if you're out there. He brings it up from time to time, those monks meditating someplace in California that brought the crime rate down. So is this a similar thing where we've sort of trained the paranormal entities that may or may not exist, you decide, that this is the time where they're allowed? Because we're sort of our eyes off the ball. We're in the dream realm. We're sort of hiding from the darkness, waiting for the sun to rise, and giving them a liminal space to sort of creep in. And there's another thing that came to mind as part of this. I was thinking about Lovecraft, of course, because H.P. Lovecraft, infamously, famously, however you want to put it, he suggested that the entities from his fictional work were actually true entities from his dreams. They were trying to break into our reality through his mere presence, through his dream space, whatever that looked like. And he felt like that darkness, that you go all the way back to the dawn of time, that darkness, that level of darkness was always trying to creep back in to human reality. And it needs us as some sort of conduit, some sort of portal, some sort of the dream realm, whatever it happens to be. And so I was wondering about that as part of this. Maybe this is when something like that might happen. And there are some other really bizarre things about birthing entities from dreams and whatnot. I'm not sure if it fits directly into the show, but I did brainstorm some of that. Shout out James. We'll get to James in just a second here, but we kind of chatted about that a little ways back. But a lot of ways to look at that. And so, of course, you guys know me. I don't know. I'm not a magical practitioner. My magic is here. You see what you get. That's my magic. That's it. This is what I do. But other than that, this type of thing does make me wonder if there's something more to it. Not just, let's say, as the veil thins and you get closer to Samhain and what's it called? All Hallows Eve. There we go. Say it properly. Is there something to it? It certainly feels like it. By the way, I think we're going to end up tomorrow, like I told you guys, Vegas, we're like 95, 95. Everybody's in shorts. And then like tomorrow is going to be in the 60s, the highs in the 60s. So it's like, what? So I may have to pack pants and a jacket tomorrow. But anyway, suddenly, right, you snap your fingers and what was autumn, which was the end of summer, it turns into this bizarre, well, strap in because things are about to get weird. But do you think it has something to do with this? And of course, you know me and merging and mixing ideas together here. If we take the witching hour, all right, and then merge it with, so it's kind of a liminal space on a 365-day basis at a particular time for the human experience, is it also possible when you merge the idea with Samhain, with All Hallows Eve, the veil thins in a temporal space, of course, by hemisphere, that maybe there's more to it when you combine these ideas? And what would, let's say, the witching hour look like on Halloween, or something to that effect? I don't know. Combine the ideas. What do you think? To me, like I said, fascinating as hell. I do wonder if any magical practitioners out there have tried staying up till 3 a.m. and trying some spells and things like this, or gained a different traction, or is it the inversion of Christ was supposedly passed at 3 p.m., so they say 3 a.m. is the inversion of that, is sort of a mocking of that whole aspect. I don't know. What do you guys know about it? I don't know anything about it other than what I'm telling you. And I do think it's fascinating as hell that we can look at it in a ton of different ways as usual. And I have a ton of ideas, which we'll get to, of course. I just don't want to blow all the good stuff right up front. So that's what's on my mind tonight. I'm calling this a silent signal. The witching hour's call to awareness. And do you think there's any traction with this or not? And as usual, look, I know we lean woo because that's the show. That's what we do. However, if it's nah, the answer's nah. If you think, nah, I don't see anything here, Mike, that's cool too. That's cool. As I always say, I'm not the arbiter of truth, barely my own. And so let's talk about it. What do you guys know about this witching hour aspect? Is it real? Is it not? Is it somewhere in between? We got James in Michigan coming up, Saucedo Paranormal, and your calls as well. What do you know about this liminal space on a 365-day basis? And is it any different during the spooky season?